Consistency is the bridge between goals and achievements, yet most people struggle because they wait for motivation to show up. The truth is, motivation is fleeting, but consistency is a choice you can force into your daily life until it becomes second nature. If you want to build habits, master self-discipline, and create results that last, you must learn how to push yourself forward even when you don't feel like it. Learn to force yourself to be consistent is not just a mindset, it's a skill that separates the average from the extraordinary. Number 1. Why consistency matters more than motivation. Consistency matters more than motivation because motivation is an emotion, and emotions are unpredictable, temporary, and unreliable, while consistency is an intentional practice that compounds results regardless of how you feel. Think about how motivation might get you started on a Monday morning full of energy and big dreams, but when Wednesday arrives with stress, distractions, or fatigue, that motivation quickly fades, leaving you with nothing to hold on to. Whereas consistency is the discipline of showing up every day, no matter the circumstances, and building momentum brick by brick until success becomes inevitable. And this is why people who achieve greatness in any field, athletes, writers, entrepreneurs, leaders do not depend on being motivated all the time. They rely on habits and routines that anchor them when motivation disappears, because they understand that it is the small, repetitive actions that matter more than the occasional bursts of energy. Consistency turns effort into progress, and progress into mastery, while motivation alone only offers sparks without fuel. And when you focus on being consistent, you train your mind and body to perform even in moments of resistance, proving to yourself that you are not controlled by feelings but by commitment, and that self-trust builds confidence, which in turn strengthens your ability to keep going. And over time, consistency outshines talent, luck, and motivation itself, because the one who keeps showing up, keeps practicing, keeps learning, and keeps improving will always surpass the one who only works when inspired. So the real key is to shift your mindset from "I'll act when I feel motivated" to "I'll act until it becomes automatic," because when consistency becomes your lifestyle, you no longer waste energy waiting for the perfect mood. You simply do what needs to be done, and that discipline guarantees results, growth, and fulfillment that fleeting motivation could never sustain. Number 2. The role of self-discipline in creating lasting habits. Self-discipline plays the central role in creating lasting habits because it acts as the inner force that pushes you to follow through with commitments long after the initial excitement wears off, serving as the anchor that keeps you grounded when temptations, distractions, or excuses try to pull you away from your goals. And unlike motivation, which is temporary and emotion-driven, self-discipline is a deliberate choice to prioritize what you want most over what you want right now, making it the foundation for building routines that eventually shape your character and future. And when you consistently practice self-discipline, you rewire your brain to favor long-term benefits over short-term pleasures, meaning that every time you choose to exercise instead of sleeping in, to read instead of scrolling endlessly, or to save money instead of wasting it, you strengthen the muscle of discipline, and that repeated reinforcement gradually transforms actions into habits that no longer require the same amount of willpower, turning hard choices into automatic behaviors. And this is how self-discipline acts as the bridge between intention and habit. For without discipline, even the best plans collapse under the weight of inconsistency. But with it, even small efforts compound into extraordinary results, because discipline not only helps you start habits, but also helps you sustain them during tough times when motivation is absent. And the most successful people in life understand this truth, that freedom and success are born from discipline, not from indulgence, and they cultivate it daily until it becomes second nature. Because when discipline becomes your lifestyle, habits no longer feel like struggles, but like natural extensions of who you are. And that transformation ensures that the positive routines you set today, whether for health, learning, productivity, or personal growth, become deeply ingrained patterns that guide you tomorrow, proving that self-discipline is not just a tool, but the very backbone of lasting success and personal transformation. Number 3. How small daily actions lead to massive long-term results. Small daily actions lead to massive long-term results because success is never the product of one giant leap, but rather the accumulation of countless small steps taken consistently over time. And while many people wait for big opportunities or dramatic changes to transform their lives, the truth is that greatness is built quietly in the background of everyday discipline, where small, simple, repeated choices gradually compound into extraordinary outcomes, much like how a single drop of water seems insignificant, yet, over years, can carve through solid rock. And when you commit to small daily actions like reading 10 pages a day, exercising for 20 minutes, saving a little money, or practicing a skill, you may not notice immediate results, but those efforts are stacking silently, creating momentum that becomes impossible to ignore. And the beauty of this principle is in its compounding effect, because just as compound interest turns small savings into wealth, consistent actions turn small habits into mastery, confidence, and success. And while big bursts of effort often fade with exhaustion, small daily habits are sustainable, realistic, and powerful because they create a lifestyle instead of a moment, training your mind and body to move automatically in the direction of your goals. And over time, these actions shape your identity. You no longer just try to write, you become a writer. You don't just attempt to be fit, you become someone who lives healthily, showing that habits form who you are. And the power lies in repetition. For success is less about intensity and more about consistency. And when you embrace the philosophy of steady, small progress, you remove the pressure of perfection and instead build resilience, patience, and discipline that fuel long-term achievement. And this is why the most successful people don't chase overnight transformations. They focus on what they can do today, no matter how small. Knowing that little actions performed daily accumulate into massive results that transform lives in ways motivation and quick fixes never could. Number 4. Breaking the cycle of procrastination through accountability. Breaking the cycle of procrastination through accountability is one of the most effective ways to overcome the endless loop of delays, excuses, and unfinished tasks, because procrastination thrives in isolation where there are no consequences for postponing action. But when accountability is introduced, whether through a mentor, a friend, a coach, or even public commitment, the pressure to follow through becomes stronger than the urge to procrastinate. Since you no longer operate only on willpower, but also on responsibility to someone else, and this external structure forces you to confront your excuses and act despite resistance, creating a system where progress is no longer optional but expected. And accountability can take many forms. Setting deadlines with a partner, joining a group where everyone shares their progress, announcing your goals publicly, or using accountability tools and apps that track your performance. But the essence remains the same. Once your actions are visible to others, the cost of inaction becomes greater than the comfort of procrastination. And this psychological shift breaks the cycle because procrastination feeds on secrecy and lack of urgency, while accountability creates urgency, clarity, and pressure to deliver. And as you begin to meet your commitments consistently, you build self-trust, proving to yourself that you are capable of following through, which in turn reduces the grip of procrastination over time, since you are no longer waiting for the perfect moment, but instead training your brain to act in the present. And the more you practice accountability, the more it becomes a habit, until you naturally hold yourself accountable, even without external forces, because you've conditioned yourself to value integrity, discipline, and results over comfort. And in this way, accountability acts as the bridge between intention and execution, transforming procrastination into productivity and turning goals into accomplishments that once seemed impossible to achieve alone. Number 5. Turning discipline into an automatic routine. Turning discipline into an automatic routine is the ultimate key to sustainable success, because discipline in its raw form often feels heavy, demanding, and mentally exhausting. But when you transform it into a routine, it no longer requires constant willpower or decision-making. It simply becomes part of your lifestyle, like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. And the way this transformation happens is through repetition, structure, and consistency, because every time you repeat a disciplined action, waking up early, exercising, studying, or focusing on work at a set time, you are wiring your brain to recognize that behavior as normal, reducing the mental friction that often makes discipline feel like a battle. And over time, what once felt like a struggle begins to flow naturally, which is why building systems is more effective than relying on bursts of willpower, since systems automate discipline by eliminating choice. And when you no longer debate whether to act but instead just follow a routine, your energy is preserved for execution rather than hesitation, and the best performers in every field understand this, which is why athletes train on schedule, writers sit down at the same time daily, and leaders follow structured rituals, because they know that habits powered by routine guarantee consistency far beyond the fleeting power of motivation, and turning discipline into routine also frees you from decision fatigue, since every time you reduce unnecessary choices, you conserve mental strength for the things that truly matter. And this shift empowers you to achieve greater focus, productivity, and mastery without feeling constantly drained. And once discipline has been embedded into your daily rhythm, it feels less like forcing yourself and more like living in alignment with your goals, creating momentum that carries you forward automatically. So, instead of waiting for motivation or fighting resistance daily, you simply move with the flow of your established habits, proving that the real secret of success is not endless struggle, but the smart conversion of discipline into automatic routines that make excellence a natural part of who you are. Number 6. The power of delayed gratification in staying consistent. The power of delayed gratification in staying consistent lies in its ability to shift your focus from short-term pleasures to long-term rewards, teaching you the discipline of patience and the wisdom of investing effort today for a greater payoff tomorrow, because most people fail at consistency not because they are incapable, but because they are seduced by the comfort of instant satisfaction, choosing the couch over the gym, scrolling social media instead of studying, or spending money instead of saving it. And while these choices provide temporary relief, they steal from your future success. But when you practice delayed gratification, you strengthen your ability to resist these fleeting urges and align your actions with your bigger vision. And this mental strength becomes a powerful driver of consistency, because every time you deny yourself an immediate reward, you are reinforcing self-control, building resilience, and proving to yourself that you can endure discomfort for something greater. And the most successful people in history, from investors to athletes to innovators, are those who mastered the art of waiting, consistently choosing long-term growth over short-term gain, because they understood that true achievement is not a sprint, but a marathon of disciplined actions compounded over time. And when you learn to delay gratification, you reprogram your brain to find satisfaction not in instant results, but in progress, growth, and the anticipation of future rewards, which makes consistency easier to maintain, since you are no longer chasing the quick fix, but are committed to the process itself. And this shift in mindset allows you to stay steady, even when results seem invisible in the beginning, because you trust that your consistent actions will eventually pay off. Just as saving small amounts leads to wealth, training regularly builds strength, and daily learning produces wisdom. So, by embracing delayed gratification, you develop the patience to endure the present, the discipline to stay consistent, and the vision to achieve the extraordinary, proving that lasting success belongs to those who can resist the temptation of now in order to secure the greatness of later. Number 7. Building systems instead of relying on willpower. Building systems instead of relying on willpower is the smartest way to achieve consistency and long-term success, because willpower, while powerful, is a limited resource that depletes quickly when faced with repeated decisions, temptations, and distractions. But systems create structure, automation, and clarity that remove the need for constant internal battles, making progress more sustainable. And the truth is that most people fail not because they lack ambition, but because they depend solely on willpower to carry them through, which eventually leads to burnout, inconsistency, and frustration, while systems act like invisible support networks that guide behavior effortlessly, whether it's setting up a fixed workout schedule, preparing healthy meals in advance, blocking distractions with apps, or designing your environment so that good habits are easy and bad habits are hard. And by doing this, you reduce the need for daily decision-making, which preserves your mental energy and keeps you moving forward even when motivation is low, because the path of least resistance becomes aligned with your goals. And this is why the most successful people in every field don't trust themselves to rely on raw willpower alone. They design systems that guarantee follow-through. From athletes who train at the same time daily to entrepreneurs who automate parts of their businesses to students who follow strict study routines, proving that success is not about extraordinary self-control, but about creating environments and processes that make the right actions automatic. And once you put systems in place, discipline no longer feels like a constant uphill battle. It becomes a natural flow where progress happens almost on autopilot. And the more consistent your system, the stronger your habits become, until success is not a matter of if, but when. Because systems, unlike willpower, don't run out. They sustain you through fatigue, doubt, and distraction, turning your goals from wishful thinking into inevitable reality, making it clear that the real secret to lasting consistency is not in fighting harder with sheer will, but in building smarter through systems that work for you every single day. Number 8. Learning to embrace discomfort as growth fuel. Learning to embrace discomfort as growth fuel is one of the most transformative mindsets you can develop, because every meaningful achievement, breakthrough, or transformation lies just beyond the edge of your comfort zone. Yet most people retreat from discomfort, seeing it as something negative, when in reality, discomfort is a signal that you are stretching, evolving, and stepping into new territory. And if you shift your perspective, you will see that growth is never born from ease, but from challenge the sore muscles. After a workout means your body is getting stronger. The nervousness before a presentation means you are leveling up your communication skills. The frustration of learning a new skill means your brain is wiring itself for mastery. And when you learn to lean into these uncomfortable moments rather than avoid them, you transform resistance into energy that propels you forward. And the key is to stop associating discomfort with pain and instead associate it with progress, because while comfort feels good, it breeds stagnation. But discomfort, though hard, builds resilience, confidence, and adaptability. And those qualities are the foundation of lasting success. And when you choose to face discomfort willingly, whether by waking up earlier, speaking up when it's easier to stay silent, or persisting when quitting looks tempting, you send a powerful message to yourself that growth matters more than temporary ease. And this builds a mental toughness that makes future challenges less intimidating, creating a cycle where discomfort becomes fuel instead of fear. And the most successful individuals understand this truth deeply, which is why they consistently put themselves in situations that test their limits, because they know every moment of struggle is an investment in their future strength. So if you want to stay consistent and achieve more than you thought possible, you must stop running from discomfort and start embracing it as a teacher, a trainer, and a guide. For it is in those very moments of unease that you are being shaped into the person capable of achieving the dreams you once thought were out of reach. Number 9. Tracking progress to reinforce consistency. Tracking progress to reinforce consistency is a powerful strategy, because what gets measured gets managed, and when you actively monitor your actions and results, you create a feedback loop that keeps you motivated, accountable, and focused on your long-term goals. While without tracking, progress often feels invisible, leading to discouragement, doubt, or even quitting altogether. But when you track, even in the simplest ways, like checking off tasks on a calendar, writing down daily habits, or measuring performance, you make your efforts tangible, giving yourself proof that your consistency is paying off. And this visible evidence strengthens your commitment by reminding you how far you've already come, which makes it harder to break the streak or abandon the process. And psychologically, humans are wired to seek completion and progress. So when you see growth in numbers, charts, or records, it triggers a sense of accomplishment that fuels further action, creating momentum that pushes you to keep going even when motivation fades. And tracking also helps you identify patterns where you are strong, where you fall short, and what needs adjusting, allowing you to refine your approach instead of blindly repeating the same mistakes, making consistency smarter, not just harder. And over time, this practice transforms consistency from an abstract idea into a measurable reality, showing that even small efforts add up when observed and acknowledged. And whether you are tracking workouts, finances, study hours, or personal goals, the principle remains the same. Progress recorded is progress reinforced, because you can't argue with evidence, and once you see results stacking up, quitting becomes far less appealing than continuing. And this is why high achievers across every field, from athletes who log their training to entrepreneurs who measure their growth, depend on tracking as a tool for maintaining discipline, because it doesn't just show progress, it builds motivation, accountability, and confidence, proving that consistency is not just about doing the work, but also about recognizing the work done. And when you consistently track, you reinforce your identity as someone who shows up, follows through, and moves forward, making long-term success not just possible, but inevitable. Number 10. How consistency builds confidence and unstoppable momentum. How consistency builds confidence and unstoppable momentum is rooted in the fact that every small, repeated action not only moves you closer to your goals, but also reshapes the way you see yourself. Because each time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it's waking up early, sticking to a workout, or completing a daily task, you send a message to your mind that you are reliable, disciplined, and capable. And this repeated self-proof gradually builds unshakable confidence, since confidence is not created by wishful thinking or empty affirmations, but by consistent action that demonstrates your ability to follow through. And as this confidence grows, it feeds momentum, because momentum is the powerful force that comes from stacking small wins over time, turning effort into progress, and progress into unstoppable drive. And once momentum is built, it becomes harder to stop than to continue, because success starts to compound, your habits become easier, and your actions begin to feel natural rather than forced, creating a cycle where consistency fuels confidence, confidence fuels momentum, and momentum fuels even greater consistency. And this cycle separates achievers from dreamers, since dreamers wait for motivation, while achievers act until their progress takes on a life of its own. And the beauty of this process is that it doesn't require perfection, but persistence, because even imperfect, consistent effort eventually compounds into mastery, while sporadic bursts of motivation never sustain long-term growth. And the greatest athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, and creators rely on this principle. They didn't become confident before taking action. They became confident because they consistently showed up, faced resistance, and proved to themselves they could endure. And as their confidence grew, so did their momentum, making their success appear unstoppable. So if you want to build a life of strength, growth, and fulfillment, stop waiting to feel ready and start being consistent, because each step, no matter how small, adds to your confidence and builds momentum until you are no longer forcing progress, but being carried forward by the unstoppable energy your consistency has created. My dear friends, remember this. The life you dream of is not built in a single day. It is built daily, through small acts of consistency, discipline, and commitment. Do not wait for motivation to knock at your door. It is unreliable and fleeting. Instead, train yourself to rise above excuses, to push past comfort, and to act even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is not about perfection, it is about persistence. Even when you stumble, stand back up, adjust your steps, and continue forward, for the one who refuses to quit will always outgrow the one who only acts when inspired. Build systems that guide your actions, embrace discomfort as proof of growth, track your progress to remind yourself of how far you've come, and most importantly, never underestimate the power of small daily actions, for they will shape your future in ways you cannot yet imagine. stay disciplined, stay accountable, and let your habits carry you toward the life you were meant to live. And now, let us close with a prayer. O Almighty, grant us the strength to discipline our hearts and minds, the patience to stay consistent in our efforts, and the wisdom to choose what is right over what is easy. Bless us with courage when we feel weak, with clarity when we feel lost, and with perseverance when the journey feels long. Help us turn our struggles into strength, our routines into blessings, and our daily actions into a legacy of success and goodness. May our consistency not only transform our lives but also inspire those around us to rise higher. Amen.